So, David Goggins, his life isn't just a story, It's more like an instruction manual for the human will. And it's all built on this one pretty brutal idea that you can actually rewire your brain, you can push past pain, and you can unlock a level of performance you probably didn't even know you had. His whole approach really starts by asking one simple, kind of uncomfortable question. And that's the question he's asking you right now. And trust me, he's not just being poetic. He argues that most of us, we live in this cozy comfort zone that's built on denial. We think we know our limits, but what if those limits are just walls? Walls we've built ourselves. Walls we never actually tried to push against. This brings us to one of his most famous ideas. He calls it the 40% rule. He genuinely believes that when your mind is screaming at you to stop, you know that feeling when you're completely exhausted and you think there's no way you can go on? You're only at 40% of what you can actually do. That feeling of being done, it's a lie. You've still got a whole 60% left in the tank. Yeah, this whole philosophy, it didn't come from some textbook. It was forged, literally forged in the furnace of some serious adversity. And to really get Goggins' tools for mastering your mind, you first have to understand the life that pretty much almost broke him. I mean, look at this. The guy had every excuse in the book to fail. His childhood was an absolute nightmare of physical abuse from his own father, just extreme poverty and constant vicious racism. We're talking having a gun pointed at him, the N-word spray painted on his car, and all that toxic stress gave him a stutter and severe learning disabilities. So by his early 20s, where was he? He was almost 300 pounds, working a dead-end job spraying for cockroaches on the graveyard shift. And this quote, man, this just says it all. This was his rock bottom. He wasn't just in a slump, he was numb, just going through the motions. But then he had this moment where he finally saw himself, not as a victim, but as this zombie just accepting a miserable life. And that moment of brutal, raw honesty, that was the spark that ignited everything that came next. So what do? You can't just go buy a book on how to fix that. He had to invent the tools himself, to survive, to pull himself out of that quicksand. He literally forged a mental arsenal, and it all started with the very first one he created. It all kicked off right here, the accountability mirror. And listen, this is not about chanting positive affirmations at yourself. No way. This is about raw, gut-wrenching, radical honesty. It's about looking yourself dead in the eye and telling yourself all the truths you've been running from, that you're overweight, that you're being lazy, that you are wasting your God-given potential. The ritual itself is simple, but man, is it powerful. He'd call himself out on everything he was doing wrong. Then he'd write down his goals, didn't matter how small, on Post-it notes and slap them on the mirror. Make your bed. Study for the test. Stop hitting the snooze button. Every single day. That mirror wasn't just his reflection anymore. It became his drill sergeant. And the results? I mean, look at this. They were absolutely staggering. Just by holding himself accountable, Goggins did what everyone thought was impossible. He lost 106 pounds in under 3 months. He studied like a maniac and finally passed the military entrance exam he'd already failed twice. He went from being a total victim of his circumstances to the master of his own mind, and he qualified for Navy SEAL training.
Okay, tool number 2, the 40% rule. Think of this like a mental override switch. Our brains, they have this built-in governor, right? A safety mechanism to protect us. It makes us want to stop at the first sign of real pain or discomfort. Well, Goggins says that governor kicks in way, way too early, at just 40% of our actual capacity. The real game is learning to push right past that initial "I'm done" feeling.
This leads to what he calls callousing your mind. And it's just like it sounds, like getting calluses on your hands. How do you do it? Through repeated friction and discomfort, by intentionally seeking out things that suck and just pushing through them again and again. You prove to your mind that its 40% limit is a complete work of fiction. Okay, so you're pushing past that 40%, you're deep in what Goggins calls the pain cave. Where do you get the energy? What's the fuel? Well, that's where tool number 3 comes in, the cookie jar. And no, it's not a real jar.
It's a mental file cabinet of every single obstacle you have ever overcome. It is your personal highlight reel of past wins that you can draw on when you feel like you have absolutely nothing left.
And let me give you a prime example. This is from his first 100-mile ultramarathon, a race he entered with basically zero training. At mile 70, his body had just completely shut down. He was broken. This is the moment when basically any sane person would quit. It's the moment your mind is screaming that you've got nothing left. And this is exactly when Goggins reached into his cookie jar.
So right there, at his absolute lowest point, broken down on the side of the road, he starts pulling out these cookies. He remembered surviving Hell Week not once, but 3 times. He remembered losing all that weight. He remembered teaching himself how to read when everyone said he couldn't. Each one of those memories was a cookie. It was undeniable proof that he had been through hell before and had come out the other side. And that was the fuel he used to get back up and actually finish the race.
So you see what's happening here? You take the accountability mirror for that brutal honesty. You take the 40% rule to smash your limits, and you take the cookie jar for fuel. When you put all those together, you're not just collecting techniques, you're forging an entirely new philosophy for living. And the whole point, the end game, is to build what he calls an armored mind. And this isn't about ignoring pain or pretending doubt doesn't exist. It's about getting to a place where those things no longer control you. Discomfort just becomes information. It's not a stop sign anymore. And that is the key to winning the war against your own internal weakness. And look, this is why it all matters, even if you have zero plans to ever run an ultramarathon or become a Navy SEAL. Goggins frames life itself as the ultimate endurance event. The training, the getting uncomfortable, the callousing of your mind, it's all just preparation for the inevitable challenges that life is going to throw at every single one of us. This captures his mindset perfectly today. And it's this kind of paradox. Be peaceful, but never satisfied. What does that mean? It means you accept your past, you accept everything you've been through, but you don't let that acceptance turn into complacency. You find peace in who you are right now, but you never, ever stop hunting for the person you could still become. And so at the end of the day, this whole book, this entire philosophy, it really just boils down to this one simple question for you. It's a challenge. A challenge to stop believing the story you tell yourself about your own limits. Instead of seeing a finish line, Goggins wants you to see a wide open field. What if you're wrong about what you're capable of? What if you really do have 60% more to give? What if?